Hooway for Wodney Wat. That's what it says, Wat. Hooway for Wodney Wat. By Helen Lester, illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. Hooway for Wodney Wat. Poor Wodney Wat. His real name was Rodney Rat, but he couldn't pronounce his R's. To make matters worse, he was a rodent, a wodent. What's your name, Wodney? Asked the other rodents. Wodney Wat, whispered Wodney. What's another name for bunny? They asked knowingly. Wabbit, he mumbled. And how does a train travel? They winked at each other, and a twain travels on a twain twack, Wodney replied miserably. All of this teasing day in and out made Wodney the shyest rodent in his elementary school. His squeak could barely be heard in class. He gnawed lunch alone. And while the other rodents scurried and scooted about at recess, Wodney hid inside his jacket. Then one day, as the rodents were taking turns doing wheelies on a new rodent, a very large rodent, barged into the classroom and announced, "My name is Camilla Capybara. I'm bigger than any of you, I'm meaner than any of you, and I'm smarter than any of you," she said. So there. With that, she accidentally, on purpose, elbowed an ear, bumped 2 noses, stepped on 3 tails, and lay down on a desk. Her fur pricked in fear through the classroom. She sure was bigger than any of them. She sure looked meaner than any of them. Was she smarter than any of them? What? 2 plus 2. What's 2 plus 2? Asked Miss Fuzzleworth. 4, shouted Camilla Capybara, without even bother to raise her paw. And furthermore, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16, and 243 plus 125 is 368. Later, when Miss Fuzzleworth asked, "What's the capital?" Camilla interrupted. "New York, Albany, population 296,594. And during science, in answer to the question, what part of a plant is below the ground, Camilla Capybara danced on her desk and sang, root, 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 toot, toot. Yep, thought all the other rodents. She's smarter than we are, too. They felt very, very uncomfortable. Every afternoon, just before the final recess, Miss Fuzzleworth drew a name from her hat to see who would be the leader for their favorite game, Simon Says. She scrunched her eyes closed and jiggled the hat. Would it be Hairy Hamster, Minnie Feet Mouse, Grizzle Frizz Guinea Pig? Could it be mean, smart Camilla Capybara? Miss Fuzzleworth's paw reached in and pulled out the name of Wodney Wat. The bell rang. There was a wild scurry for the door, and Camilla Capybara was the first on the playground, having trampled others in her path. To Wodney, she looked especially scary. What would she do when she heard him speak? Breathe capybara breath in his face, or tie him up in his own tail, or even pounce on him? The tiny, trembling leader of the game stood before the eager players, his head well inside his jacket, and squeaked, "Wodney says, weed the sign," while the other students read PS 142 Elementary School for Rodents. Camilla began pulling out weeds around the sign and flinging them hither and yon till she was clear up to her teeth in dirt. The other rodents began to smile. Wodney says, "Wrap your paws around your head." He peeked a little out of his jacket and saw, whap, whap, whappity slappity whap. Camilla was whapping her paws around her head so hard she became dizzy, gave herself a headache, and had to go sit down. The other rodents couldn't help but giggle. Wodney says, "Play wing around a woozy." Camilla put out her arms like wings and made an airplane noise. But where was Woozy? What's a woozy? By now, Wodney's voice was stronger and his head was entirely out of his jacket. "Wake the leaves." Nobody moved. Wodney says, "Wake the leaves." While Hairy Minifeet and Grizzle Frizz and others busied themselves raking, Camilla Capybara grabbed one leaf. "Wake up!" she yelled. She snatched another one. "Come on, you! Up, up, up!" And another, "Rise and shine!" And another, "Boo!" By now, all the rodents were squealing with laughter. All but Camilla, who frowned. "Stupid leaves, they won't wake up." And why was everyone laughing at her? Such bullies! In a voice so strong he had to hold his own ears, Wodney called, "Wodney says, go west." The rodents collapsed in a happy heap for a rest. "Go west." Camilla Capybara, feeling very smart that she could tell directions by the sun, said, "All right, I shall go west." And then she added, "So there." West she stomped forever. She was gone. And from that day on, the pupils of PS 142 Elementary School for Rodents never teased Wodney Rat again. He was their hero. "Hooway for Wodney Wat," they cried. "Woot, woot, 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 toot, toot." The end.